Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, That Model Railway Guy. So, Christmas is over, New Year is out of the way and we're into January now, and that means it's time for the Hornby 2024 range announcement. Regardless of whether or not you're a fan of Hornby, this is a pretty big event in the hobby as we get one of the major manufacturers announcing what they're planning to make in the near future, or in some cases in the not so near future. So I haven't looked at the range yet at all. I have no idea what they've announced. I've been holding off all day and I'm going to take my first look on camera in just a bit. But yeah. First, I think it would be fun to do some predictions. Last year I sort of predicted that it would be a smaller announcement overall for Hornby so that they could catch up in a way, and that did sort of end up coming true. In terms of this year, will we see a sort of a return to form for Hornby with a kind of a larger announcement, or will it be a smaller affair again? I'm not so sure, if I'm honest. On the one hand, they've had some time to catch up now. They've had a whole year to catch up. And we've also got new management in place too, who might be looking to make a bit of a splash. So it could be quite a big range again. I think, though, they'll want to play it safe for another year, just to give themselves even more time to catch up. And there has also been potential talk as well that we'll get a smaller announcement now in January, sort of at the beginning of the year, as is traditional, and then sort of more individual products announced throughout the year, when they're closer to completion, I guess. That would be sort of moving more to the style that Bachmann have used in recent years. But of course, that works for Bachmann because it's when the new models are pretty much about to arrive. So yeah, Hornby might not be in that position just yet. I mean, if they, announce something, an individual product like that, and then it takes, a year or more to arrive, that's kind of defeated the point a bit. So, it might well be that we have a smaller announcement this year and we don't get any additional announcements throughout the year. But then next year we start to see those sort of sooner, the sort of the shorter lead times between announcements come in. So, yeah, something I have to say, I'm pretty confident that we won't see now. We won't see any TT today. This is just going to be a double O gauge announcement. The reason I know that is because in their magazine, in the TT magazine, Hornby stated that their next set of TT announcements was going to be in April. They were going to do a big April announcement for what was going to be new for that range. And that makes sense to me, to have your main double O gauge range announcement be at the start of the year, as we've all come to expect, and then follow it up in a few months' time with the sort of the secondary TT range. So, yeah. So we get to do this all again in a few months' time. On to some actual Loco predictions. Something I said last year, which I'll say again because I'd love to see it again this year too. I would really, really like to see another small industrial tank engine from Hornby. It's been a while now since they did. I think the B2 was the last sort of industrial tank engine they did. Yeah, the B2 Peckett. So that was back in, I want to say 2019. Was it 2019 or was it 2020? I don't know. I can't remember. But yeah, so it would be nice to see them sort of do another small little steam engine like that again, because Hornby are good at that. I mean, they really did sort of kickstart this whole kind of craze with small industrial locos with the W4 Peckett. That said, I do sort of feel like the Era 1 range with Rocket and Lion has somewhat overtaken that slightly, and yeah, that's kind of filling the gap. So, the small loco gap. So, yeah, it's a very small gap, a very small pre-grouping, pioneering gap. Anyway, so yeah, it's possible they'll want to expand that range even further. And I mean, I could see them doing something like Planet, because it's been, a couple of years since they announced Lion now, and I know they've had Tiger in between that's essentially the same loco. But yeah, I think Planet could be a good shout if they think there's enough mileage in a model of that. I do wonder as well if we'll see more of the generic 4- and 6-wheel coaches too. I have to be honest, I'm really surprised they never did any in the SE and CR livery, because that's one of the most popular pre-grouping liveries, and I think there's a real market for them to do them in the darker SECR livery. So obviously Hatton's did their Genesis coaches in the sort of in the SECR livery as well. And before you all ask, yes, I am aware of the sad news about Hatton's closing down. But yeah, I think it would be really interesting to see, instead of a straight duplication of the Hatton's Genesis coaches, Hornby have a real opportunity to do some SECR pre-grouping small coaches that were you know, in the sort of the darker kind of more maroon plum, I don't quite know what it was, but it was sort of a darker sort of shade of red and purple, I guess, in a way. So yeah, I'm surprised we've never seen those, and I think it would be a good shout for Hornby to make those. Anyway, moving on. Over the last few years, we've seen a lot of big LNER Express engines from Hornby. Last year alone, we got the Flying Scotsman 00 range. There was the Streamline B17, I think, and the Great Gathering set with all of the preserved A4s as well. And then before that, it was the P2, the Hush Hush, the Thompson A2. So yeah, they like the LNER. I wonder if we might see Hornby move away from the LNER to one of the other big four, perhaps. If it were up to me, I would think they would go for something southern because of the Margate connection. Yeah, personally, I'd love to see a new Battle of Britain or West Country class. I think the existing model was introduced in the early 2000s, I think around 2001, 2002, something like that, and then it was upgraded at some point as well, but not too recently. But yeah, so that seems like it could be about time for an upgrade of that now. That would be really cool. I have seen the 8F mentioned quite a lot recently too, which that would be LMS, of course, but yeah, it's that's a possibility too. So yeah, although I have to admit, I feel like they announced an 8F in the Railroad range last year, and it seems like it would be odd to do that if they were already working on or planning a newly tooled version of the 8F. So yeah, I sort of feel like that's less likely, even though there's been a lot of people asking for it. As far as modern stuff goes, I mean, I'm not really an expert in this area at all. I mean, I'm not an expert in anything, to be honest, but I think we could see more of their newly upgraded HSTs in different liveries, maybe some in the Swallow Intercity livery. I think that would be really cool, and that generally tends to be quite popular, or even the GNER livery. Oh, do you know what? I wonder if we'll see anything in the new LNER livery, you know, the one that's sort of like the Swallow livery, but with that red tint to it. Yeah, I don't know, but I think that could be really interesting. I think they would be adding that to their Class 91. Is it the 91 or is it the 90? I can't remember. Again, I'm not very good with modern day stuff, so yeah. So yeah, something else we saw this time last year on the TV programme Hornby A Model World. We saw that they were working on a new budget range in one of the episodes where they would scanned up the B4 and were sort of making a representation of it. Now, I don't know if that's actually something they were working on or if it was just done for the TV show, and also I think they were possibly training up a new designer at the time. So yeah, I don't know if that's something that we will actually see. I think they probably want to focus on the HM7000 stuff for the moment when it comes to kind of starter sets and you know, sort of new ranges in a way. So yeah, speaking of the HM7000 stuff, I wonder if we'll see any upgrades to those. I know a lot of people found that the decoders themselves were a bit big. I wonder if we might see smaller versions of the decoders. I don't think we'll see any new sound profiles because Hornby have been pretty good at putting out new sound profiles all throughout the year. If you go onto their website, there's actually a list of all the sound profiles they're currently planning and when they're due to come out. So we might see some TXS Locos announced, but I don't think we'll see them announcing specific new sound profiles for the decoders. Anyway, that's enough predictions from me. Now it's time for some predictions from you. I put out a post on both YouTube and Instagram asking for what you guys were expecting to see in today's announcement. And if you don't know, yes, I do have an Instagram. Please do go follow me on there if you're not already. I'll put a link down in the description. But yeah, let me grab my iPad and we'll take a look at what you guys think is going to be announced. Okay, so I have my trusty iPad here. I'm going to be looking down at that during the course of this section so that I can keep on track, otherwise we'll be here all day. But yeah, so on to your suggestions and predictions. William Babcock has suggested the Saint class. I've definitely seen that one mentioned a few times here, actually. It was just William Babcock was the first one that I saw. But yeah, Saint class definitely seems like a popular prediction here. And on a similar note, AD Pullen and Terrier 11 Newport have both predicted the GWR Great Bear locomotive. That could definitely be a possibility. We know Hornby like their one-off locomotives, you know, and after something like the LNER Hush Hush and the LMS Turbo Motive, something Great Western could be a really nice follow-up for that. So yeah. AD Pullen also mentioned the P2 with the extra smoke deflectors. Now that's a really good shout because I'm pretty sure that Hornby have already shown some CAD work of a P2 with the extra smoke deflectors, even though they haven't officially announced it. So yeah, I think we'll almost definitely see that. A couple of people as well asking for the Cali 439 class. I can see Mason 58654 and Robert Crookle over on Instagram too, both asking for that. I would love to see that loco in model form, definitely. I feel like Hornby would probably want to go for something that has a wider range, if I'm honest, like a wider geographical range. But I could definitely see one of the smaller manufacturers doing it, someone like a Curascale or Rapido. Actually, I think it would be right up Rapido Street, but they've already got the Jones goods on the way, so I don't think they'll want to take on another Scottish loco just yet, but who knows, maybe we'll see. But yeah, I would definitely love to see one of those myself, although I don't think it'll be coming from Hornby, if I'm perfectly honest. Maybe a commission from like Rails of Sheffield, who did the Caledonian 812 class, so yeah, something like that. To be honest, I am seeing a lot of predictions for pre-grouping locos, so that's really interesting, and it shows how popular these locos have become in the last few years alone. So yeah, pre-grouping has really sort of grown in popularity. Especially considering that 5-10 years ago the manufacturers were saying there wasn't an audience for it and there wasn't enough demand for them to actually make stuff. So yeah, how times have changed. A few other people like me thinking that Planet could be the next Era 1 announcement for the Pioneering range. So yeah, good to see I'm not too far off with that one. A few others predicting a Great Goodbye set to follow on from the 00 Great Gathering A4s that were announced last year. That could definitely happen. I think the only thing with that is that Hornby seem to have a lot of the Great Gathering locos still available on their website. This is the 10th anniversary Great Gathering locos. So they still seem to be available on their website, and I wonder... Some of them went out of stock for a while and then they came back into stock now that they've actually started arriving. So yeah, I wonder if they will perhaps not do the Great Goodbye because they want to sell through the Great Gathering stuff before they make a load more 00A4s. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see in a moment when I actually take a look at the thing. This last one that I've got here, this made me laugh though. PacerFan09 simply said, "I predict a train." PacerFan09, I think that's pretty much a certainty. And with that, let's finally take a look at the Hornby 2024 range. Okay, so straight out of the gate, they're doing locomotion for the Era 1 range. That's going to be really cool if they can get all the detail on top working. Yeah, I can't tell here from what I'm seeing. I don't think it said that specifically, but if they can pull that off, that'll be really impressive. It looks like a really cool model already. But yeah, if they can get that working on top, that would be really impressive. Hello everyone, just a quick little interruption from me while I'm busy editing this video. So since I filmed this one earlier on, I have now seen some footage from Hornby's live stream where they actually showed locomotion running around on their test track. And as you can see, amazingly, all of that linkage, that really fine linkage detail on the top does indeed work. That's incredible. This is really cool to see, especially considering that this is a first sample, I think that's what they said. So to see it working this well already, yeah, that's pretty impressive. So top marks from Hornby there, and now back to me in the past. So this is due in October, and it will be £169.99. So and the other thing as well is it looks like they're just doing the loco with this, which is great. So it's not part of a pack. That gets a big thumbs up from me. On a similar note, Tiger is going to be available as a separate loco too. That'll be £139.99, along with some of the rolling stock being available individually too. So yeah, and I think I said last year that the main thing that really stopped me personally from buying more of this range was because it was all available in packs and it was all sold in packs. So yeah, top marks to Hornby for making these available individually. Yeah, it does look like though that Locomotion is the only brand new tooling for this year. So yeah, definitely another catch-up year for Hornby again, which makes sense. You know, I see here that they have said they will be making some announcements throughout the year as well. So yeah, more to look forward to, kind of as I predicted. It's interesting to see they are moving to sort of what the rest of the industry is doing with announcing more frequently throughout the year rather than just putting it all on this big announcement at the in January, as has been tradition. But yeah, we'll get to see what they have throughout the rest of the year. The other main thing I can see is a 70 years at Margate range, which with that, oh, it looks like they're bringing back the Nelly and the Polly locos from years and years ago that have been incredibly popular throughout the ages. I think that's partly a nostalgia thing, but also didn't scratch builders really like to use those as kind of like a basis for creating their own little industrial locos? I don't know if that's the case so much anymore, because now we have lots of, very nice ready to run sort of industrial locos like the Peckett, and Dapple have got the Hawthorne and Leslie coming out. Hatton's did the Barclay. So yeah, there's lots of stuff. But yeah, I assume this is also going to be kind of a thing for the collectors as well. I'm assuming that these new Pollys and Connies and Nellies and everything, I'm assuming that they're not the original tooling from years and years ago, that they're going to upgrade it or do a new one altogether. Although I do wonder if it's just a new body shell for the existing 040 railroad chassis, or even it might be just a repaint of an existing 040 already. I don't know. I guess we'll find out more details in the future on that one. But these are all due in June, and they're going to cost £49.99 each. So, yeah. And also, just to say, I didn't say this earlier on, but all these prices are the RRP from Hornby, by the way. So just bear that in mind. You can get a bit of a discount if you go to the retailers, of course. But yeah, other than that, it looks like everything else is basically new liveries on existing models. We do have the P2 with the additional smoke deflectors, so yeah, good to see that. And that's also going to have the steam generator fitted to it as well. So yeah, so we're still waiting on Prince of Wales, the other P2 that had the steam generator fitted. That still hasn't come out yet. But I guess that means we now have a choice of two different P2s with steam liveries, with steam generators rather, sorry. But yeah. Only one Hornby 00 model this year. That's another A4 Silver King. So yeah, after going pretty heavily after the collector's market in 2023 with the Flying Scotsman and the A4 ranges, they've scaled back a bit. I guess they kind of want to have all the focus on that 70 years at Margate range. It looks like they've got some new Beatles stuff as well. So yeah, I'm guessing they wanted to sort of focus on that. As for just sort of standalone Steam Locos, there is a brand new 9F Black Prince, so that's going to be really cool to see, and also Mayflower, which is a B1. I can see both of these being really quite popular, actually, especially given that they're both preserved locos, and yeah, I feel like the preservation sort of theme has become a lot more popular in the last few years. I can certainly talk. I built an entire layout that was based around a heritage railway, so yeah. There's also a lovely little terrier in the sort of Isle of Wight lined black livery. That sort of black with red lining. But yeah, looks really, really nice. This is a web exclusive, so it's only going to be available from the Hornby website, and that is £149.99. There's also some of the generic coaches to go with that in the nice teak livery, with the Isle of Wight Central Railway's crest on them too. So yeah, you can make up a nice train, but that does look like they're the only generic coaches to be announced this year. So no SECR carriages for me, unfortunately. We also have a couple of L1s. Nice to see those making a return. And also some GWR King classes, so King Stephen and King Charles II. Not quite Great Bear, as some of you were predicting, but at least there is some Great Western stuff in there. As for diesel and electric, the main thing I can see here is the HST Class 43 in the GNER livery. So yeah, definitely not surprised that they're doing more of these, considering that they upgraded the Class 43 tooling a few years ago. The GNER blue does seem to be a popular livery, although I have to admit, I am surprised that they didn't go for the Intercity Swallow livery first. That's where I would have put my money, but yeah, the GNER livery is also very welcome. That does also have some corresponding Mark III coaches to go with it too, so of course you can build up a decent length of train. We also have a few more Class 66s. Quite a few of these actually seem to be Jubilee specials, so yeah, that's a little bit odd. I should say that one of them is a Class 67 as well. They're not all Class 66s, but yeah, I know all these special liveries weren't available to Hornby during the Jubilee year, but it seems a bit weird. It seems like it would have made sense to have announced these last year, yeah, rather than 2 years afterwards. It just seems a little bit like the moment has passed, but I don't know. This stuff does sort of seem to sell very well for Hornby when they've done it in the past, so I can absolutely see why they are doing it again. Moving on, we also have some new Class 08s. One of these is in the Swallow livery, so we did get a logo in the Swallow livery there, just not the one I was expecting. And then the other 08 is Dick Hardy in the BR Green. That's a preserved 08, isn't it? I feel like I've seen that around somewhere. Anyway, those are both £189.99 and they are due to arrive in November. And that, to me, looks like pretty much all of the main stuff. I'm not going to go through and list absolutely every single thing they're making because I'd be here all day otherwise. But yeah, that does look like the majority of it. There's a fair few wagons available as well. Again, these are all existing toolings by the look of things with just new liveries applied. Or new toolings which haven't yet been released but, were announced last year and we're just getting additional liveries. But yeah, the ones that caught my eye in particular were the new laureates, especially this one, which seems to come with some sort of road crane on it. So that's really cool. But yeah, generally a quieter year again from Hornby, sort of as expected. I know we've come to sort of expect a big announcement from Hornby at the beginning of the year. So I think there will be quite a few people who are probably disappointed in this. I don't know, I sort of feel like Hornby are a bit damned if they do, damned if they don't in some ways. If you look at all the social media posts that they've had leading up to this announcement, there's been a lot of people in the comments on there saying, you shouldn't be announcing new stuff, you need to bring out the stuff you've already announced before announcing new stuff. And that's exactly what Hornby have done, and now I can imagine already there are lots of people furiously typing that, Hornby are going down the drain because they haven't announced anything this year and there's nothing in it for them and all that sort of stuff. So anyway, people like to have a moan, don't they? It's a hobby, isn't it? And of course, don't forget we have a few more announcements coming from Hornby throughout the year supposedly as well, so that'll be interesting to see how big those are or whether it's just sort of more re-liveries of stuff. And don't forget we also have the TT announcement coming in April as well, so yeah. But yeah, Locomotion looks great. I mean, that really is the standout highlight. Certainly for me, I think for most people that will be as well. Really looking forward to seeing how that one turns out. I'll be keeping my eye on that. And honestly, that's kind of got me interested in their Era 1 range again. Yeah, I can already feel the cogs starting to turn here. So, yeah, again, it's good to see them making the most of their existing models by doing them in different liveries and numbers as well. It used to be that we would see like, a loco or a wagon or a piece of rolling stock would be announced and, you'd get 3 different versions of it in the initial announcement and then maybe you'd get a few more the year afterwards, but after that you'd never see it again. And so, yeah, it's really nice to see some of the stuff returning and Hornby making the most of the existing tooling that they have, because a lot of it is really good. Certainly I think the L1s, it's nice to see those again. But, yeah, I know there's this kind of culture of Hornby have to or anyone really has to keep making these big announcements every year, but I do think as well for someone like Hornby who do have such a huge existing range, if they can spare the resources to bring back some of the sort of slightly older, I say older models as if they're like the tooling is terrible. We're talking about stuff that's like like maybe 5 years old at this point, 5 or 10 years old. It's still really good models. They're still really good models, but yeah. So yeah, I think that's everything from me. I can't see anything else, but do let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Let's try and keep it civil, please. Obviously, if you're just here for a moan, then maybe don't bother. But it's like if you actually have something to add to the conversation, then by all means, let me know what you think down in the comments. Don't forget as well, I will be back later this week with another update video from the modular model railway. Really exciting one coming up on there. We're getting close to the end on that now, so it's an exciting episode, that's all I'll say. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, everyone. That's it from me today, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!